What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Multiverse. Today we're going to be breaking down and talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3. This episode had a lot going for it, in my opinion. It had some weird things going on as well that we'll get into, but overall, great show. And ultimately, the things that went wrong with this episode and that have gone wrong with the show so far are so far outweighed by the good things that are coming out and this great story that we're getting. So we'll get into that later on the video. So we start the episode off with Kenobi meditating, trying to talk to Qui-Gon, but ultimately just running over all these emotions and thoughts and memories that have rushed through his head. All the stuff with Anakin, because he's just realized or he's just been told that Anakin has lived. And then we see this awesome sequence of Vader being built, it was totally awesome. It's stuff that we see in the comics, but I've never seen in live action, and so it was great. Really thankful to Deborah Chow for that. We see a lot of what was in the trailer, but just more. The pieces of his neck coming on, the tubes being released from his back, and then the back plate coming on. We see that the helmet is actually a different, method from Revenge of the Sith, because first we see his helmet in Revenge of the Sith. We see his helmet come on without the cowl or the extra headpiece, and then that piece comes on. But in this, it comes on his helmet as one comes on besides the neck piece, which I thought was interesting. Then we get to see Vader's castle on Mustafar, which is super cool. I've got to say though, he's very much a minimalist, because there's not much in the way of decorations. Like when you look at Palpatine's office, he has a lot of artifacts and sculptures and whatnot, and Vader just pretty much has the throne, and that's it. So we see him talking to Reva. He says he doesn't care about the Grand Inquisitor, which is true. Vader hates the Inquisitors. He thinks they're irrelevant and unnecessary. But then he says that Reva, keep this up and you'll be looking good for the role of Grand Inquisitor, which I thought was interesting that they didn't talk about the Grand Inquisitor at all in this episode. I don't know how I'd feel if they don't talk about him at all. When the series wraps up, I think they've got to tie up that loose end somehow. I thought it was weird that they didn't have any sort of resolution to that in this episode, but I'm sure it's probably going to come at some caliber. Obi-Wan snaps back to the present, and he's talking to Leia about what the Force feels like, which is pretty cool. And she was very authentic, and she was really just talking to him, which was nice. It was very calm after the storm that was episode 2. We see that Obi-Wan, he's talking to Leia about what the Force feels like, and he gives her Lola. He's like, yeah, I fixed it. But he's so not present. His mind is elsewhere. Like, you can tell. Like, she's like, oh, you fixed Lola. He's like, oh, yeah. And then he just goes right back to what he's thinking about. Obi-Wan and Leia go to Mapuzo, which is a mining planet, according to Obi-Wan, an Imperial-controlled mining planet. They were sent there by Kamal Nanjiani's character. I can't remember his name right now. They go there and they're walking, they're going to the coordinates that he gave them to find help. And along the way, Obi-Wan is seeing visions or illusions of Anakin, Hayden Christensen Anakin, like in the flesh before the events of Mustafar. And Hayden turns and looks straight into the camera, and it's super creepy. I literally got chills watching that. Like, I felt like somebody was watching me outside my window. Super creepy. Very well done. I loved that. We also see that Obi-Wan is a bit losing his edge, because Leia's talking about, people helping them, and Obi-Wan snaps at her and says, not all people are good. And he's really losing his composure, and he's really just losing it, guys. We see more infighting between the Inquisitors, mostly between the fifth brother and Reva, the third sister. And it's what appears to be the Fortress Inquisitorius from Fallen Order, that mostly underwater Inquisitor base, which was super cool to see. Reva tells the other Inquisitors that Obi-Wan is on Mapuzo and that they need to send probes out right now. And the other two are like, you don't know that. You're not in charge here. The fifth brother's like, I'm next in line after the Grand Inquisitor. Which Reva doesn't take well, and she tells them that she's already spoken to Lord Vader about Obi-Wan's whereabouts, which basically she's going over their head because they're next in line. The fifth brother uses the Force to intimidate Reva, and he like pushes her straight to right against the table, which I thought was super cool. She's finally getting a little bit humbled, or it didn't work really because she didn't get humbled, but she finally got a little bit what was coming to her, which I thought was good. Back on Mapuzo, Obi-Wan and Leia they get to the coordinates where Kamal Nanjiani sent them, and nobody's there. And so Obi-Wan's distraught, and he thinks that he fell for this stupid trick and there's nobody going to help them. And they see a transport coming, and Leia goes over and talks to the driver, Frick. And Frick is a super nice guy. I really liked him. And something interesting about Frick is that it shows that some people, and really the idea of what the Empire is supposed to be, and some people, they like that, and they're all for the Empire. And he says there's nothing wrong with a little bit of order. He really likes the controlling and tight-gripped hand that the Empire has. And I thought it was interesting to show that some people support the Empire, because if nobody did, then the rebellion would have come long before, and they would have been a much larger force against the Empire. A little bit of an emotional dialogue from Obi-Wan, talking about how he sometimes thinks about his family before being taken to the temple, the Jedi Temple, and he reveals that he is pretty sure he has a brother, which is pretty interesting. The transport stops at a Imperial checkpoint, and Frick gives up Leia and Obi-Wan, again just showing his real trust and admiration for the Empire. Doesn't go well for the stormtroopers, right? Obi-Wan dispatches them pretty quickly, and the probe, the probe seemed really large, like a lot larger than the video games or the shows. So I thought that was interesting, but the probe is zeroing in on Obi-Wan, and it captures his face, and it recognizes him. That's Obi-Wan, just before he shoots the probe. We get some pretty awesome combat between Obi-Wan. He's really using his hands well. He shoots well. That guy gets bisected by the laser gate, and then it ends with a stormtrooper holding Leia hostage. I was like, dude, she's like half his height, just shoot him, which he does. I'm glad that they didn't go with, oh, she's too, it's too much of a danger, she might get hurt. No, he was like, boom, killed him. Another shuttle or troop transport shows up, and Obi-Wan and Leia are seemingly outnumbered, which they are. But then the Imperial officer behind the stormtroopers takes out all the stormtroopers and reveals herself to be the help that Kamal Nanjiani was talking about. She leads them to this little town, and she tells Obi-Wan and Leia to wait while she goes and checks out her hideout just to make sure it's all good. We see Leia as finally really out of her element. She seems scared, she's homesick, she just wants to go home, which is, I thought it was interesting. It's a new element to that character that we haven't seen yet in this series, really not looking confident. And she talks about how she's sorry for ever running away in the first place, and she was just trying to have fun. She does it all the time. And the performance from this actor or actress, I don't know her name, but it's really good. She really sells it. They go into the hideout, and we see that it's kind of like a passing point for a lot of Jedi. And we see, or Obi-Wan sees Quinlan Voss's name on the wall, which is really cool because they have this sort of, it's kind of similar to Anakin and Obi-Wan's bond and relationship. It's very snippy at each other, wisecracks. It's so that was cool to have him mentioned. The Imperial officer, I don't remember her name, she reveals that she got into the Empire and quickly realized that this isn't what she signed up for, and so she started to help these people. And so that's what she does. She's kind of like a shepherd for Jedi and other people seeking refuge from the Empire. They're about to leave this stepping point and get to a pilot who's going to take them off-world, and then boom, it hits Obi-Wan like a train. He senses Anakin. He goes and he looks out the window, and he sees Vader strolling up, and Vader is so freaking cool in this section. He's walking down this alley, force pulling people and choking them from their homes, just snapping people's necks like literally with a snap of the thumb, right? He's snapping people's necks. He's so Vader, you know what I mean? And then he's looking for Obi-Wan because he knows he's there. He can probably sense him somewhere in this village. He snaps his head to where he thinks Obi-Wan is, but he's already gone. For some reason, Obi-Wan tells the Imperial officer lady to take Leia, make sure she's safe, get her to the pilot, and I think that Obi-Wan probably is kind of just stressing out a little bit and doing things that he doesn't need to do, because really, if he was calm and collected, he would have just gone with Leia to the pilot and got out of there. But for whatever reason, he felt like he needed to hang back, and maybe just he assumed that a confrontation with Vader was coming, so he wanted to get in front of it, maybe. But I think that he was just so much adrenaline, and he wasn't really thinking too clearly that he needed to hang back for whatever reason. Now, let's talk about the fight between Vader and Obi-Wan. I thought it was... I'm glad... I guess the way I'll sum it up is I'm glad there's a second one. That being said, I think this first one, knowing that there was a second one, was pretty good. I think that first of all, the VFX with the lightsabers was incredible. The blue and the red were really popping. It looked great. Vader, his swings look so heavy, which they are, because he's not like Anakin anymore, and his swings, they really hit like a baseball bat. They're not like quick sword fighting. He's a tank, you know what I mean? And you can really see that in Obi-Wan's blocks. Like his blocks block a blow from Vader, and his arms just fall. Like he can't handle it. And Vader calls him on it. He says, "These years have made you weak, son." I thought the setting for this fight was a little weird, and this comes into play with it makes it better knowing that there is going to be a second fight. It was kind of just like this weird construction area with like gravel, mounds of gravel, and there was like it was dark, and it was just weird to me. I don't know. What do you guys think about that setting? It was very it seemed like a fan film, like somebody shot this somewhere like in their local town, you know what I mean? The fight moves on to its final stage, and Vader is approaching Obi-Wan, who's kind of backed into a corner a bit, and he force pulls down this container of some sort of flammable material and whatnot. He lights it on fire. He force levitates Obi-Wan. He's holding him. He lights that flammable material with his lightsaber, and he pulls Obi-Wan down and drags him through the fiery coals, just like he did to him on Mustafar. There's a line that Vader delivered earlier in the fight, or no, it was right at the beginning. Obi-Wan says, like, "Look at what you've become," and Anakin says, "Look at what you left me with. Look at what you made me." And I think that's I talked about that in one of my earlier videos. Some people were saying, that Vader is the way he is because of what the Emperor did to him, and that's a little bit true, because Anakin could have received better cybernetics like General Grievous. He could have received that kind of caliber cybernetics, and he would have been a beast. But the Emperor obviously didn't want Vader to be more powerful than the Emperor, or else he would just overthrow him. So he got what he got. And so I've heard a lot of people saying that he's the way he is because of the Emperor, but really it's because of what Obi-Wan left him. Obi-Wan left him on that bank on Mustafar with no limbs, all burnt up, when he really should have just killed him. So I think it's really it's very Vader for him to pull Obi-Wan put him through the exact same pain that Obi-Wan put him through. That's a very Vader thing to do, very characteristic of the character. He doesn't just pull him through the flames and the coals. Obi-Wan is there for a significant amount of time. He is being burnt, and we see his arm is like extremely charred up, just like Anakin's was. After Obi-Wan while he's being burnt, Vader force pushes Obi-Wan out of the flames, and by that extinguishes all the flames. And so he's getting ready to take in his prize, because Obi-Wan is down for the count. He's done. Then the Imperial officer lady she comes and helps Obi-Wan at the request of Leia, because Leia says she can just get to the pilot on her own. Obi-Wan needs help. So she's perched up on the side of this confrontation, and she shoots some sort of machine box, and it reignites that fire. And for whatever reason, Vader thinks that he can't get through this fire anymore, even though literally 15-20 seconds earlier, he extinguishes that exact same fire, the exact same size, with the Force. I don't know, guys. I don't have an answer. The only thing I can say is, after the fire is reignited and Obi-Wan's being carried away by that droid, Vader is clearly in deep thought about something. He stands there for a good while, just staring at the flames, staring through the flames to Kenobi. He's clearly thinking about something. I don't know what that is, and I don't know why he let Kenobi go. That seems very uncharacteristic. I hope he has some sort of plan, because there's no way he would just let him go like that. He's been searching for him for 10 years. The episode ends with the Inquisitors, kind of going through the city and looking for more Jedi, I think they said. But Reva finds that the hideout, and she cuts off Leia on her way to the pilot, and Reva actually kills the pilot. And so now Leia is back into Reva's custody. Overall, I'd say I'd give this episode I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think it was still extremely well done. There's really only that last part with Vader letting Obi-Wan go. That's really the only bad part about this episode. Overall, I liked the episode. I thought that the beginning, seeing the illusions of Anakin, Hayden Christensen staring right to Obi-Wan, right into the camera, was super cool, super creepy. I love that part. We got some great dialogue between Obi-Wan and Leia on the transport. We got good combat between Obi-Wan and the stormtroopers. We got badass Vader being built and suiting up, and then snapping people's necks in the village. Again, as I've said before, we're just really blessed to be a part of this and be Star Wars fans at this time, experiencing this as it happens. So I'm really grateful. Be sure to check out my video coming out Friday. We're going to be talking about Reva. I have some speculations on what her ties and motives are to Obi-Wan, so that should be a good video. We're going to do a lot of speculating on her part. And other than that, let me know what you guys thought about the episode and what you think about the show overall. Make sure you subscribe for more nerdy content just like this, and we hope to see you next time.